Welcome to my program, Bashy's Corner. We invite guests from all sections of society, politicians, cultural personalities, academics, NGOs, anybody who has something nice or something good to say about ethnic minorities. The issues we discuss are issues which normally mainstream media doesn't want to talk about, or maybe they don't desire, but we do. And to prove my point, I have invited a very special guest today in my studio. Actually, a couple of times you have been here before, Ulla Sandbæk. She's a member of Danish Parliament now, so our questions and discussion will be around those issues. Ulla, welcome to my program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are now a member of Danish Parliament,
Yes.
okay? MP, what we call them. But you are also a member of
The
European Parliament
yeah.
before, that's true. Do you see any difference when you were there and how things function in European Parliament and then the Danish Parliament, where there is a totally different culture of politics?
There is huge difference.
Okay.
The European Parliament is like a globe all in itself. You never have to leave the building.
Okay, so a
lot of us don't leave the building anyway because we're away from our countries.
Okay.
Normally when I was there, I would go there 8 o'clock in the morning and stay there till 10 o'clock at night, because that was the last time I could get a service car to take me back home. At that time I didn't want to take the metro.
Okay.
I wanted to have a car. There is several restaurants there is a cleaners, there is a supermarket. You can fulfill all your needs there. You even can sleep in your office if it's too late to go back to bed. You have abundantly of money for support. Okay. You can have any number of secretaries there, but the press is not there. So it's very invisible what you do there. And the work is rather important because what you decide there has to be copied in the national parliaments.
In other countries, yes.
Yeah, but people are not aware of that. They believe that what we are doing in the national parliaments are all our own doing. But actually a lot of our laws are just copied from the European laws.
This is about 70% laws now. Okay. But then with this wonderful description of European Parliament, how is being first time in Danish Parliament? How do you feel there? Is it a small village?
No, this is not a small village. This is very much part of real life because we are dealing with real life here.
Okay.
And actually it's a dream comes true, because when I was in the European Parliament with my very wonderful colleague Jens Peter Bonde,
yes, true.
We were talking about Danish politics and we said this is not good. I mean, we need a better party in Danish politics. We have to make it, since it's not already there. But we never got around to it.
Okay.
And then I discovered the Alternative. And I said, wow, this is just the party Jens Peter and I dreamt of making. It's here already, not in the parliament, but I can join that party. And for a long time, when I passed the Danish Parliament, I felt this is where I belong. I would look in there, and it was totally unrealistic, because I didn't belong to any political party that could put me there. I would have to create it myself, which would not be very easy. And then all of a sudden, here I am.
So does it mean that in coming European Parliament election, maybe would you consider standing for Alternative Party? Maybe
no. You should never go back. You always have to go forwards.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will support any candidate that the Alternative will put there.
But Alternative will field candidate for coming election.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
We are growing
because
all the time, so it will be realistic. We need 10% to get a member of the European Parliament, but you can make alliances with other parties. So I think it will be realistic for us, in alliance with some other party, to get the 10% that we need to get there.
I heard, I read somewhere that now Alternative Party has almost 6,000 members.
Right.
How come it went very quickly?
It's because, there is a flow in time. And I think that we just caught the flow in this time. You can see it also in Greece, you can see it also in Portugal, in Spain, you can see it in the United States.
And in Canada,
in Canada, in Britain.
I was crying when I listened to the new Prime Minister.
Yeah,
so
isn't that one? The Pope?
Yeah,
the Pope is in this flow. He's talking about the environment, not only social responsibility, but the environment, So we caught this flow. We're riding on it. We're maybe a little early in it, but this is the time.
Ulla, you were member of European Parliament for a movement which was actually anti-EU movement, if I can remember.
Not anti-EU, anti-European Union as a federal state.
Okay, let's say that. And now there will be now you are in the Danish Parliament, and there will be a referendum in December this year, where Danes are going to say yes or no to keep this opt-out or not. So what would you campaign for?
I would campaign,
or your party would campaign for?
My party will campaign for the yes. From my perspective, it's mainly because of the refugee question. Okay. I believe that we can only solve the refugee question on a European basis. We need to be more, how do you say, to help each other. What is the word in English? I know the word. Anyway, more solidaric. Solidaric. And the only place where this can be solved is in the European Union. I don't like to see people drowning in the Mediterranean, of course. The European Union can, via embassies or places that we put in the near countries or in Greece and in Italy, we can make all the procedures, whether you are entitled to be a refugee in Europe or not. Those who are not entitled to asylum can be sent back immediately.
You mean the migrants?
Not the migrants, the asylum seekers.
No, what I mean is that asylum seeker coming from Syria or other countries where there's civil war, you can't send them back.
No, of course not.
Okay.
You can send the migrants back.
Yes, that's what I meant. You know, migrants who came for economical reasons.
Yes, so they don't even have to cross any waters, and afterwards the EU can divide them according to the ability of the various countries. Okay. This is for me extremely important, that refugees are accepted with dignity. And shouldn't have this strenuous voyage to come to Europe where many of them die.
Okay, we'll talk about that in detail later, but I just want to go back to your experiences in Brussels and here. What I hear often Danes say, yeah, but Brussels is there, you know, and we have to be able to decide in Danish Parliament ourselves. And, you know, so there must be a difference of working conditions or working methods in European Parliament and this Danish Parliament. Do you feel the difference?
Yes, I feel the difference very much. I mean, I know that what mattered in the European Parliament, of course, was, as here, the environment. Yes. And for me, I worked a lot with women's reproductive rights and health. So this was women from the third world who suffered from AIDS and who had a lot of children, unwanted children, sometimes died in pregnancy and in childbirth. This was my main issue. So I was working also in the European Parliament, of course, with these kind of issues. But in the European Parliament, you didn't so much work cross-party. Of course, if I really wanted something, an amendment to be adopted, I would have to go to the other political parties and say, can I have your support? Yes. But in the Danish Parliament, specifically in this party, we work a lot with the environment because we know that we only have one planet. And if we are going to spend 5 planets, 6 planets, we are going to take away the livelihood of our children and our grandchildren.
So we have to leave something.
Yeah, so this is really our main issue. You have also to deal with all kinds of issues in this parliament, not only where you're the spokesperson, because people like you can ask you anything that you feel like asking me.
You are spokesperson for integration of your party.
Yes.
So can you explain to my viewers and also to me, what do you understand with the word integration?
The word integration, as far as I understand it, is that you become part of the Danish society, that you know the Danish language enough to look at the news, to take part in the debate, to go and vote on a knowledgeable basis, that you feel that you belong to this country, that you are accepted here, but that you keep your own culture. Because otherwise it's not integration, then it is adaptation people force you to become like the Danes. To be integrated is not to become like me. It's not to have my eating habits. It's not to have the habits how I dress. You are integrated the minute you feel you're part of this society.
And you belong to a society.
You belong to it, yeah.
That's I think is a wonderful way of looking at it. Your party in this election showed that they're very progressive, at least seen from my perspective where I'm standing. And you also had people with ethnic minority background who fought election, and one of them won. But when I look at the political scene in Denmark, even in his listen, which is Red-Green Alliance, they somehow are keeping distance from minorities. Don't you think that your party's so close relationship or some progressive, approach to ethnic minorities could be not dangerous, but could be worrisome in the future when Danes say, hey, this party is very friendly towards minorities?
No, I don't think so. People are getting used now to the way we're speaking, like we're speaking respectfully with other parties.
Yes.
So it's very funny when we had the opening debate in the parliament.
Okay.
Rasmus, who is our chairman, he said that he mentioned all the other political parties, and he mentioned in which areas we could cooperate with them. And
even with Danish People's Party?
Yeah, even the Danish People's Party, he found some way where we could cooperate with them because they have a social agenda, so have we.
Yeah.
So there are issues from all the political parties where we can have a cooperation. And you could feel the atmosphere in the plenary session. It changed, Everybody were happy that we said we can cooperate with you, that we didn't stand there finding faults with all of them, scolding them for past mistakes, putting present or future mistakes into their agenda.
That's true.
But that we were all actually showing them respect. And I'm sure that they will know that this is part of our DNA, that we're showing respect to everybody.
Yeah.
We're also showing respect to minorities.
Yes.
We recognize that minorities have a lot to give. The more diverse a society is, the better it is.
True.
Diverse in this aspect, because you need no diversity in money income.
No.
The more the money income is
that's
the
the
same.
solidarity, yeah.
Yeah, the solidarity, the better the country is. But I'm a pastor, and Jesus chose 12 disciples, as I'm sure you know.
I see.
And he chose them in a huge diversity, because being, of course, the person he was, he realized what diversity means to the world.
Absolutely. Now you talked about diversity, and you also talked about your involvement with asylum seekers and refugees. What exactly do you do with refugees, in your work?
In my work, I make legislation. So what I am doing right now is to make sure, or I cannot make sure because we have a government who doesn't want to do that, but I would make sure that the international laws, asylum laws, are respected here. That when people come here, first of all, that they have the right to seek asylum. Then you have to decide whether they are persecuted individually or whether they come from an area with war.
Yes.
And then those who have the right to asylum should be given asylum, and afterwards they should be treated exactly the same way as Danish people. It should be a speedy, very quick procedure. So, because the worst thing in this world is insecurity, that you don't know what is going to happen. This is killing you.
And waiting,
And waiting, yeah. So if refugees have to wait a very long time to know if they will be accepted here, already they will be a lot more traumatized than they are. Our policy is to get asylum seekers out of the asylum system as quickly as possible, and to integrate them into the Danish society, to let them live where we live, to their children go to the same schools, that they should see the same doctors, that they should learn the Danish language in the workplace, that they should be entitled to work from day one.
But this government says that it's no need for that. You have to keep them waiting, and if the situation is better in their countries, we send them back. So they were like guests in our home.
Yeah, but we know that the situation in Syria will not be better.
Yeah, in Afghanistan, for
the
example.
UN is deadlocked. It's not going to be better.
No.
And it's only going to be worse, because the minute that the people down there who are living in lousy refugee camps realize that it's not going to be better, they will come even more than are coming now. So let's face it, they are here to stay. So we should make sure that they feel welcome. We should make sure that they will contribute, because this is what they want to do. And we shouldn't alienate them and make them clients. Because if we do what the right-wing parties want us to do, very, very quickly they will become clients. You know, they will become dependent on social aid.
True.
And this is, of course, not what we want.
No.
It's not what they want.
No.
Certainly not. It's also not what we want. So let's allow them to do what they want to contribute to the Danish society.
So do you think now that the EU is pressuring different countries, do you think Denmark would maybe listen to EU?
This is why I recommend a yes to the
referendum.
Yeah, because if we have a yes in the referendum, we can transfer the asylum area to the EU.
Yes.
When I was against this in the beginning, I voted in favor of the opt-out. It was because at that time I thought that Denmark had better laws than the EU. But with the present government, sorry, we are not allowed to speak badly about anybody in my party.
But you're talking about the reality.
Yeah, for me it is a reality that now I prefer to have EU decide specifically about the asylum questions rather than my present government.
There is another issue which I wanted to talk to you about. Your heart beats for Palestine. I know you have been for years and years working on this issue. And with this situation we have now, where the Prime Minister of Israel is saying that the destruction of Jews in Europe was because of the Grand Mufti of Palestine, who went to talk to Hitler and made him do that. This kind of silly remarks, you know. But the escalation of violence is now taking place there. How can we de-escalate? You know, should there be pressure from outside on Israel to live up to their responsibilities?
They don't surrender to pressure. I mean, the United States could, of course, if they said you're not going to get any more weapons from us or any more money from us, like this,
it will change.
You would see a change in Israel immediately. But the United States is not going to do that. I had hoped that Barack Obama would have that kind of courage. He doesn't. He has to think of his party, of course, even if he cannot be the president anymore. So he's not going to do it. I think that the two-state solution is quickly becoming impossible. It will be a one-state solution, the way things are developing now, a one-state. And then probably for a long period of time, it will be like South Africa. And finally, probably the world will see that you cannot have a second South Africa between Israel and Palestine. And then it will change. But I feel very sorry for the Palestinians. If it's going to be a second South Africa, they are already suffering a lot. But I don't see any solution.
You know that Denmark is helping European Union to patrol Mediterranean, you know, with gunboats.
Yeah.
What is your party's position on that?
I think that a much better way than patrolling so that the refugees cannot enter Europe would be to make sort of a martial aid. You know, after the Second World War, the United States extremely wisely said, we're going to pour a lot of money into Europe. It's going to benefit us in the long run. They will be able to buy our merchandise. Exactly. They will be able to support us. We have seen the results. The results were excellent. So I think we should do the same now. In the near areas of Syria, we should make a martial help. We should pour a lot of money in there so that they could make life livable for the refugees. We've made one good step from the European Union that we have said to sometimes the names of these countries slip my mind. I know very well the neighboring country where they have already, from where they transfer to Greece.
Turkey.
Turkey, yeah. Of course I know Turkey, but you know, sometimes I don't even remember the names of my children. So we have approached Turkey and we have said that we are going to give them 22 billion euros if they are ready to accept the refugees, to give them work permits, to give them refugee camps that have all kind of facilities, to make sure that their children go to school.
And they have 2 million refugees.
Yeah.
Turkey has,
Yeah. So if we would do that with all the near areas, make completely sure that there are facilities, that the children can go to school, that they will have sufficient medical aid, and that they will be able to work, because this is so vital for people that they can support themselves and their families.
Of course.
Then we would not have many refugees in Europe. Why would people come here to a totally different culture, different languages, start all over again? They would be able to sit it out until Syria could be sorted out, because they would have a life there.
Yes, true.
And this is the only solution. We cannot guard our borders. This is not, it's also not ethic.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
Fort Europe, it will become if they do.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you is that while the Danish government and many other governments in Europe were bickering about how many refugees they should take or they shouldn't take, I saw a beautiful movement among the people where many European and also in Denmark, huge movements welcome refugees, and your neighbors were open their hearts, Why is this contradiction?
This contradiction is because for some years now, all the right-wing movements in Europe were gaining momentum. They were gaining voters, like in France, Le Pen, like in Holland, like in Denmark, the People's Party.
Yes.
So they believed that people voted for these people because of that. But in Denmark, I don't think that people in Denmark have mainly voted for the People's Party because of racism. I think that because People's Party actually have a social program. They speak in favor of the old. They speak in favor of those who are unemployed. They speak in favor of more money to the hospitals. So they have taken over the whole social agenda.
Of Social Democratic Party.
Yeah, but the other parties believe that it's because they are anti-refugees. So they try to be even more strict, but people do not agree, and specifically with the situation now. This little boy who lay there
in the beach,
beach, drowned. I mean, I knew that lots of children had drowned already, but here you saw one little boy lying there without one shoe, drowned. It made a tremendous impact on people. All of a sudden they realized these are human beings and we have to take our responsibility. So, but the politicians in those parties haven't realized that yet. I think, and I hope that they will someday soon realize that people do have a heart.
You talked about, I know that you're a priest, I don't know if active priest, but you're a priest, So my next question is, that Denmark, our Danish people always say that it's a secular country, that we shouldn't mix religion and we shouldn't mix state in that. What is your take on that? Should religion and state have any connection, or they should be separate?
I'm afraid if they get separate, that we will have a lot of different religions in Denmark where you pay the pastors, so you have to say what the people want you to say.
Okay.
For me, the gospel is vital. I think that Jesus was in so many ways centuries ahead of his own time, and for me, what he said is extremely important, because all the ethics belonging to it, the love, the compassion, that you are responsible for other people. This is all part of the gospel, and I want the gospel to continue to be preached without the ministers having to think about if they're going to have a paycheck. And this, of course, is the case if the church, if the pastors are being paid by the state.
But today, half of the salary comes from the state, isn't it?
No, the whole salary comes from
exactly,
the state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But state doesn't tell them what to say. But my point was that we have Judaism, we have Islam.
No, this is my point. They can say what they want because the state pays them, not their congregation.
And if it was congregation, then
they couldn't. Then they would be dependent on telling the congregation what the congregation wanted to hear.
Another thing I want to ask you, and which some people have asked me to ask you, is it true that when the Parliament opens in Denmark in October, that members of parliament have to go to a special service?
No, you don't have to go.
But they do.
Many of us do. I mean, you can go there if you wish.
Okay.
It's one way of celebrating. When the very first parliament opened in Denmark,
yes,
it was a situation where it would be normal to open the parliament with a service, because the church had that kind of role at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Since parliament continued this, and I love traditions. And of course, I think it's very wonderful to go to a place which is not talking about politics, but which is talking about responsibilities in the broader sense, which church is. So for me, I'm very happy that we kept this tradition, and I love traditions. So whenever you can keep one, it's with my full support.
Ulla, thank you very much for this wonderful interview, and my viewers have heard many wise things from a very wise lady, and I'm sure that this connection between spirituality, religion and state will actually help people. Until next time, take good care of yourself. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It was